everyone, this is Better Lucky Than Gucci, and I am here to help you guys get better at tournaments. Everything I see on the internet, I'm in 4 or 5 different Facebook groups, 4 or 5 different Discords, and everyone has awesome decks and everyone's brewing, but I don't see anyone talking about strategy for tournaments, and that's what I'm here to bring you guys. My approach on the best way to handle tournaments. Alright, so the big tournaments that I've seen, there's been 2 styles. There's 3 deck tournaments and 1 deck tournament. Numero uno, I am here to help you guys from climbing ladder to climbing brackets. So with 3 deck tournaments, if you don't know what they are tournaments where you get to bring 3 decks. You pick 1 deck you start off with, win or lose, you can play that same deck, or you can pick a different deck, try to win the best out of 3 games. If you win 2 out of 3 games, you win that match and you move on. If not, you either go to loser bracket or you're kicked out of the tournament. Alright, so how you want to approach this, right? You really only need 2 decks. And as you guys see on screen here, I have all the decks according to their tiers from as per Different Fight, who, if you guys haven't seen him before, go check him out. Awesome info, awesome stuff to really help everyone out. He helps me out a lot, especially with understanding new decks, how to build them and stuff like that. All right, so you only need 2 decks. You need to make sure that you have a deck that you're good with, and then you need to understand what beats it, and you need a deck that beats what beats your good deck. And that's really the circle you need to worry about. You can get more fancy with 3 decks and worrying about how everything matches up, but on a simple level, it is your good deck, and if something beats that, then you gotta know how to beat it. So an example, right? I'm a big Garmor MLB fan, so my best deck is MLB, okay? My worst matchup is Dote. What do I have to beat Dote? I have Shadows. So my 2 decks and my 3 decks, my 2 decks out of my 2 out of 3 decks for my 3 deck format, geez, that was tough to say, is MLB Shadows, okay? Now my problem is, if someone has only 1 deck, which I've run into before, but they do different builds. So I ran into a guy who had 3 different Kagero builds. He had a Kagero for the mirror match, he had a Kagero for MLB, and he had a Kagero for Shadows. So that at that point, I had to have a 3rd deck, which thankfully I do, is OTT. That's my fallback. My kind of like, I'm not sure really if I'm comfortable with the matchup, I'll play OTT if it's a bad matchup for MLB. Otherwise, always I play MLB first and ride that through, because right now it is the strongest deck. So how I prioritize things, right? So you have power, then you have your matchups, then you have skill. Okay, people don't take this into consideration. You can have a person who has never touched a tier 1 deck, okay? And you have someone who plays a tier 2 deck all the time. I would take the tier 2 deck hands down every single match, because the tier 1 guy might not know the lines that you need to win. Yes, you can have raw power just like MLB. It does have a lot of raw power, but if you know how to play the matchup and you're on a tier 2 deck or a tier 1 deck, you have a very strong matchup. You're going to be very good, especially if the person's skill on that powerful deck is not that good. People don't understand that. It's not just, oh, I have the best deck, I win. No, you need the skill at the best deck. That's what makes you better, right? So say MLB has a 1 to 100, a power skill of 80, okay? If you have someone who's never played the deck before, their power level can be 60 at best. Okay, you have someone who's very good with the deck, their power can be 85. And of course, with any deck, it all matters on how you draw and how everything lines up. Do your PGs end up in damage? Do you end up shuffling them in the wrong spot? A lot of things can happen that any deck can have a bad matchup and any deck can win, but you're just trying to play the best odds. Just remember that next time you go to a tournament, if you're playing 3 decks, bring your deck, your best deck, because that gives you the best chance of winning, and then have a second deck that beats the deck that beats you. So in my fantasy world, or the world that when I play, right? So I have MLB main, Dote beats MLB, I have Shadows for the MLB matchup, and I ride the MLB for everything, and then if I run into a Dote, I play Shadows, and that's how I play. If I lose, I lose, but this gives me the best chance at winning. And the big thing people don't realize is while you're climbing, while you're doing your ladder, while you're farming for cards, material, whatever you're looking for, you can always farm for 2 decks at the same time. So have your number 1 deck, and then also be farming for your number 2 deck. And you gotta remember, these are pretty much, these top 4 decks are gonna be around for the next couple months. So that's gonna be a big determination. Know how these decks are, know your matchups, and know how you can get better. Because the better you get at a deck, your chances of winning increase every time. All right, now let's cover the one deck. So now the one deck's a little bit trickier, right? So you have all these different decks. Okay, now you have to worry about meta, and you're only gonna pick one deck. So the question is, do you pick MLB? Raw Power, very good deck. Okay, it is good against most decks. Has bad matchups against Dote, a little bit against Shadows. If you know, if you're not perfect on curve, Shadows can get more advantage. Same thing with OTT. They can build up advantage over time. If you're not hitting the on turn 3 MLB, blowing something up on theirs and then hitting for 4 damage, you're behind. That's just how it is. You have to be trying to maximize how powerful you're explosive you are with MLB. Because if anyone like Dote, they blow up your back line, you can't get over a cross-red and Dote because he's at 13, you're at 12, you have no boosters, you have to rely on the crits. And late game, you're gonna be out of crits. You can't close out the game. That's why Dote's a bad matchup for you. What deck do I go? So for me, I'm going to a tournament with a one deck format. My deck of choice actually is MLB Garmor. It is a tier 2 deck, yes, but it has better matchups against MLB and Dote, right? So if you look at traditional MLB, its power is an 80, 90, right? Super powerful deck, okay? It blows out most of these decks, right? But guess what? The meta is at least these top 4 decks, okay? You're going to run into Dote and the mirror match all the time. You're climbing a ladder. You're going to run into the mirror match and Dote all the time. Occasionally Shadows because it's still early. People haven't crafted everything yet. And then some OTT. So right now you're going to run into the mirror match and Dote all the time. Okay, in a big tournament, people are bringing the most powerful decks. They're bringing Dote targeted to beat MLB and then other stuff. Okay, if you come with MLB Garmor actually has a better matchup against MLB the Mirror and Dote. So the 2 decks you're probably gonna run into the best. It's not as good as a winning matchup as MLB compared to everything else, right? But it's a little bit less, but it's more consistent across all the decks you'll play against. So that's why I pick MLB Garmor. That's my personal matchup, but it all depends on what you have. Perfect Riser is a good deck. It gets people. Shadows is a very good deck. Though it's a good deck, OTT, MLB, all these good stuff. Kagro, all these decks, Blau, they're all good. The question is, you have to figure out how do you want to approach the one deck. Okay, so say we're going to a tournament. I don't have any of these top 4. I don't even have MLB Garmor. Okay, I'm going in with Perfect Riser. I have to plan my deck to get over MLB, Dote, Shadows, OTT. So you want to make sure that Perfect Riser, you're trying to figure out your best build to beat these, and that's what will get you wins. If you're just playing the best net deck, right? The best net deck. Everyone does this every kind of card game. You are playing a best net deck, yes. But if you don't format the deck to match the meta or the tournament you're in, because a lot of these tournaments online, they have to register your deck lists, right? So if you're looking at everyone's checking in MLB, Dote, Shadows, and you build you bring a Perfect Riser deck that's not ready for any of those 3, you'll get blown out. You have to be ready for what's coming at you. Honestly, and these are just my approaches and how I feel about how this should be handled. If you guys have any problems or questions, or honestly you just want to talk about it, feel free, hit me up in my Discord. My Discord is below. I'll also put in links of different Discords that are having tournaments. I hope to see you guys there. And honestly, if you guys beat me with my own strat, good for you. That's the way to be. I want you guys to not just be climbing a ladder, but to be climbing brackets and winning tournaments. That's my goal, to help you guys out. I hope you guys have a good night. And don't forget, better be lucky than be Gucci.